Good afternoon. We actually called our meeting to order back at 1 o'clock and had a closed session discussion on a personnel matter. And we're now back in open session, and we're here to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Forsyth County Commissioners for March 21st, 2024. And we will begin our meeting today with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Bessie. Please stand if you are able. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we address the business items on the agenda, I'd like to introduce a special guest, Mr. Carl Amato, the CEO of Novant Health. And he is here to present an award to Commissioner Dave Plyler. So, Mr. Amato, glad you're here. Welcome.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the commissioners for the remarkable work that you do and for allowing Novant Health to be so successful here in this wonderful community. But I'm honored here today to recognize Forsyth County Commissioner and former Novant Health board member and Board of Trustee, Dave Plyler. During his decade-long tenure on the Novant Health Board of Trustees, we were fortunate to benefit from Dave's valuable insight and guidance on how Novant Health can best serve all of our neighbors and create a healthier future and ensure we bring remarkable experiences to life for every patient. As a nearly lifelong Forsyth County resident, Dave was able to shine a light on often unseen barriers to care, from access to those in rural areas to patients without health insurance. Dave was an asset in supporting strategies that sought to ensure quality health care for all people. His healthcare leadership was perhaps most significant during the COVID-19 pandemic. He volunteered with me at one of our mass vaccination sites in Winston-Salem and encouraged vaccination as a key focus for the Forsyth County Commissioners. As a trusted community leader, his words were steady, particularly in turbulent times, and often a path to safety and good health for many. Dave's talents and experience have brought so much to our community. He has not only been an invaluable leader for Novant Health, but he has also been a proud and instrumental public servant. His contributions have created a lasting impact on our community, citizens, and the patients we're so proud to serve at Novant Health. Dave, on behalf of Novant Health, thank you. We are immensely grateful for you, your contributions, and we wish you all the best.
Carl, am I allowed to speak?
You know, you used to ask me that in board meetings, and I used to always say, let it go. No, I want to also let you know that the entire Novant Health Board passed a resolution, and I'd like to just briefly read it. Whereas David Ray Plyler has served Novant Health as a member of the Board of Trustees from January 2005 through January 2006, and in January 2013 through December 2023. And whereas Mr. Plyler served as a member of the Corporate Governance and Responsibilities Committee from January 2022 through December 2023, and a member of the Safety and Quality Committee from January 2018 through December 2019. And whereas Mr. Plyler's integrity, compassion, and vision helped guide Novant Health through an era of unprecedented change in the healthcare industry, and where Mr. Plyler unwaveringly support for Novant Health and his tireless dedication to providing compassionate and quality health care to the patients of Novant Health and their communities are a hallmark of his trusteeship. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Trustees of Novant Health express its deep gratitude and heartfelt appreciation to David Ray Plyler for his outstanding leadership to our institution, for his significant contributions to improving the health of the patients of Novant Health and their communities, recognized by the Board of Trustees in March of 2021. So thank you, 2024. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
We have a gift for him, too. I want to make sure he gets that gift. Thank you. Oh, this is perfect. First of all.
Good, I want your picture in there.
All right.
May I say what's supposed to be my brother? Carl Lotto is the man who leads the Novant board. And I remember when I first heard of the word Novant, it was pronounced to me Novant. But it is Novant. And it doesn't get much better than what Carl has done. He's just a terrific. Another thing, if you wouldn't mind, look, I'm pushing 90 years old. Mother's gone, my father's gone, my wife is gone, Carl's still here. So I wish they could see this. Actually speaking, I told my sweet wife that I had been nominated by this fine Board of Commissioners on whom I accept this award. I'm going to be on the Novant board. She says, "Are you sure?" But I did.
Thank you. Thank you. All the commissioners, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here today, Carl. Thank you. Congratulations, Dave. Citizens who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting by telephone, please call 336-422-1200, and you'll be placed on hold until the public session begins. And members of the audience who are interested in participating in the public portion of the meeting, you just need to fill out a little speaker card. That does not apply to the public hearing, but it does apply to our public comment period that will occur afterwards. So if you do that, it's just a little card out on the credenza out front. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing actually we have two items. One is an ordinance amendment to amend chapters 4 and 5 of the Unified Development Ordinances to increase the maximum number of units allowed per building in the RM5 residential multifamily district and increase the maximum building height allowed to RM8, RM12, and RM18 residential multifamily districts, and to revise the threshold for required buffer yard standards. And Chris Murphy is going to give us a quick, about 1 minute review, since we've looked at this already a couple of times. So Chris, we're ready for you.
Threw me for a curveball. The last time that we had talked about this on Tuesday, I thought this was going to still be third. So that's why I was kind of looking at the agenda to make sure that I was right, but it's correct. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good to see you again. Yes, as you did read, this is a text amendment to hopefully make it easier on some multifamily developments, allow for an increase in the number of attached units in RM5 and an increase in height in RM8, 12, and 18, as well as revising the threshold for which buffer yard standards are required for smaller multifamily projects. It's intended to reduce rezoning requests to higher density multifamily districts than necessary. And it's hopefully enabling multifamily developments to meet the maximum zoning density while accommodating site constraints such as creeks, floodplains, steeper slopes, et cetera. The amendment does increase the number of attached units in the RM5 district from 4 to 6. It allows within the RM8 district to go from 40 to 48 feet, in the RM12 from 45 to 60, and from the RM18 to 60, from 60 to 72. But there are some trade-offs with that. To go any height above 40 feet in any of those districts, you have to be set back at a minimum of 50 feet from adjacent residential properties, single-family residential properties, in order to kind of take away that canyon effect. Parking may be located within that 50-foot setback, however. This also amends the buffer yard requirement. Currently, the buffer yard requirement applies to multifamily and townhome developments of 5 units or more, and this actually changes that to an acre-based figure. This amendment will right-size the dimensional requirements and standards for multifamily districts and hopefully lead to folks requesting the proper district based on the density proposed. The planning board did hear this back in December. They recommended unanimous approval. It's also been heard by City Council, and they did adopt this ordinance. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris? Thank you. This is a public hearing on the ordinance. Speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request, up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this petition, which is the ordinance change? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this ordinance? I declare the public hearing closed, and is there a motion?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Plyler, second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is the matter that I was asking some questions about, whether the planning board's discussion had included considerations of impact on open space within communities, particularly green open space, and the answer was no, that had not been discussed. I am concerned about the impact of one of the provisions, reducing requirements on parcels of 1 acre or less, and what impact they may have on some of our denser urban areas. I'd like to request that this be continued and until we can get some additional information from the planning board on that consideration. I'd move the substitute motion that this be continued for our first meeting in May.
Going to May. First meeting in May.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Or April.
I thought 2 months would be easier for them to actually consider the question and respond.
I'd be happy to second that. Any discussion about basically a continuance and delay until May, till the first meeting in May?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand, please. Motion, any opposed? Leave you for it? Yes?
At this time, I did not understand when I made that motion that my fellow commissioner had that on his mind, and I agree with what you're saying. So I would suggest that before I vote, I make it clear that I'm voting to approve, but I'd like to know what kind of results you get from that study.
Yeah, we'll just be delaying for basically 2 months, and then we'll reconsider it again, just to address the single one question that Commissioner Bessie has asked about this type of high-density development on a small land out in open areas. So, good, we'll do that. All righty.
Thank you for consideration.
Very good. The next item, the motion did carry unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing on the zoning petition of Jerry Stoltz and ITAC 484 LLC from RS9 to Limited Industrial S. This is zoning docket F1638. And Chris Murphy will also give us again a brief overview of the request, which we have seen twice before. So, Mr. Murphy, we are ready.
Good afternoon again. Yes, this is F-1638, which is a request to rezone approximately 126 acres from RS9 to LIS 2-phase. This is the subject property shown on the countywide growth management area plan. It is located within GMA 3 there on the west side of Highway 52 along Shore Road. This is the subject property shown in yellow. You notice that it does surround the HBS piece of property that was previously rezoned by the commissioners for the Love's Truck Stop. It does have frontage along Shore Road. There, sort of across from Griffin, is where the Love's is, and it surrounds that tract. This is the subject property outlined in yellow on the countywide aerial imagery. It is largely undeveloped. You do have the historic Columbus Cap House, which exists on the site, which will be torn down as part of this request. The site is within the industrial opportunities area in the Tobaccoville plan. It does recommend light industrial designed in a manner consistent with the recommendations of that plan. It has been identified for economic development and business park use in several studies that both the planning staff and Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. have worked on over the last several years. This is looking west from Shore Road down Cap Farm Road. This is the approximate location of where the new road going in to serve the 7 lots for the industrial park will be located. This is looking northeast from Shore Road into the subject property. You can see the construction of the Love's on the left-hand side of that image. This is looking both north and south along Shore Road, up close to the area where the Love's is being constructed. And this is looking north and south along Shore Road, further down Shore Road from that construction. This is looking east from Shore Road into the subject property, again, further down Shore Road to the south. This is the proposed site plan. It is an LIS 2-phase request, so there are no buildings shown at the time. You do see a public road coming in that was along Cap Farm Road, where I had that earlier image. There are a number of lots. There are some streams that traverse the property. As far as an analysis, Legacy 2030 recognizes the scarcity of good industrial land and seeks to promote the wisest economic use of those limited resources to generate needed jobs and create wealth for our community. The plan recommends following the recommendations of area plans and other development guides when considering industrial sites. The proposed development recognizes the adjacent residential zoning and the visual impact of the site from US 52 and includes provisions for enhanced screening. In summary, the request is consistent with both the comprehensive plan design goals and the industrial use recommendations of the Tobaccoville Area Plan Update and Legacy 2030. It does have easy access to US 52, the Northern Beltway, and there are utilities that make this site well suited for industrial development. I know that last week Commissioner Linville did ask about utilities, and I believe that Ashley did send out an email that showed where those utilities come from, but this is served by gravity sewer, and that same gravity sewer does go up to serve the Tobaccoville plant a little bit further to the north. This was heard by the Planning Board at their February 8th, 2024 public hearing. There were 4 speakers in opposition, and their concerns did center on traffic, environmental issues, historic issues and loss of some historic properties, some of the uses, and there were concerns around property values. Following the public hearing and discussion, the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request to the commissioners. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? I have one, but any other questions? I did, in fact, I was actually looking for it. I received an email this morning, and I thought I had it just immediately handy, really a little bit, not in opposition, but more in terms of some additional sort of berm, protection space from someone across, and I apologize. I thought I had it right here to pull up.
I believe the email was from Tom Johnson, but he was representing, I believe, a couple of property owners that own property across the street. And again, I've received the same email, but at this point, there have been no discussions that I'm aware of between that property owner and the petitioner and their representatives. So I would have to defer any concessions there to the petitioner.
Got it. Okay. All right. That's good. Thank you. I think that does sound correct in title and name. All right. Any other questions for Chris? All righty. This is a public hearing, and speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request, up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? And I'll set my timer for, we have a maximum of 15 minutes, so we don't limit to 3. But if there are others, I will sort of call, see, are there others that wish to speak in favor? I just want to make sure I've managed the time properly. I think we're good. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members, and commissioners. My name is Luke Dickey with Stimmel Associates, 601 North Trade Street, Suite 200, Winston-Salem, 27101. Thank you for the opportunity to present this case to you here today for this proposed industrial park. Again, as Mr. Murphy had shown you, this is part of the Tobaccoville area plan for 2013, highlighted here on the screen. The area is known as a prime location for industrial development due to its easy access to US 52 and I-74. Industrial developments are recommended for this parcel to the east of Shore Road, which consists of this site. The special note is that Forsyth County has a limited amount of industrial sites. I'm sure Greater Winston-Salem Inc. has given presentations as well as economic developments on the lack of sites for industrial development right now in Forsyth County. And so this is a potential one that's 125 acres for the light industrial, limited industrial zoning. And so that is something that this county needs to help be able to increase that use for the county and for development. The site plan, again, is a special use kind of two-phase plan, as discussed, with our main entrance, again, on Shore Road. A TIA was prepared for this, and as part of that TIA, the recommendations are reviewed by NCDOT. That is for the addition of a right turn lane and left turn lane, so those improvements would be made on Shore Road in conjunction with the turn lanes that are being done for the Love's travel stop. So we kind of really pretty much close to make this a three-way section all the way from Love's entrance all the way down to this entrance as that gets worked out between those. This road would be provided for the future development of lots. Right now, going with the two-phase request is basically we don't have exact type of users that would go on these sites, so the two-phase allows us to provide flexibility. We show a site plan where we know where the access is going to be, but for instance, we have 3 lots shown on the north side of that road. There may be a potential that a user may come in and say, hey, I'm going to build on all 3 of those lots, and this gives us the flexibility to then take that back to planning board for their final review and approval of that. And then again, that's reviewed by the planning board. Overall conditions that we have agreed to this was a condition for a type 3 buffer yard with a minimum 4-foot high berm along Shore Road. This is along the frontage instead of just a typical 10-foot street yard that would be required. We also have a condition to maintain the planning requirements for the type 3 buffer yard along all of the adjacent residentially zoned properties. In other words, we can't add a fence and then decrease the amount of plantings. We have to provide the plantings as stated for the type 3 buffer yard. We've also worked with staff in limiting the uses that would be proposed on this site, really to focus more on those industrial type uses and not include commercial uses, because there are some commercial type uses that are allowed in the LI zoning district, and we have removed those. And so again, the focus again is just really keeping that on industrial type uses. We did have a neighborhood outreach for this, and we did this also in conjunction with the next case that you're also here on the commercial side on the west side of Shore Road. We had 51 property owners and residents that we had sent letters. What you see in this exhibit here is the white outline around the yellow line is the 500-foot notification area. And then everything that's kind of highlighted in the red is who we actually sent invites to for that meeting. So we went above and beyond that 500-foot limit. We had 45 neighbors that did attend that, and we had 1 phone call in regards to that. A lot of the questions is kind of focused on, again, what the traffic issues would be in regards to this development and Love's and just kind of that impact. And of course, then we had the TIA available that can send out to anybody that had that question in regards to that. And then also there was concerns about, of course, the existing old historic home that was on the site. It's in the middle of one of the proposed lots, so it will have to be removed. But we have added a condition that would be photo documented and everything for historical resource to their requirements for that. Again, as I said, we do have a sewer line that's running for this is serviced by sewer, so there's not extensions for that, and there is water available to the site. And so we just feel that this is a very good site, again, as recommended by the area plan for industrial development. Kind of reason for the, I think for approval for this is the Legacy 2030 and Tobaccoville area plans does recommend industrial uses for the subject property. that provides an economic development opportunity within Forsyth County with a site with easy access to US 52, 74, and the Northern Beltway that is being constructed just to the south of the site on 52. Proposed traffic generation is more than 50% less than the potential traffic generation for a single-family residential as permitted. So if this was developed as it's currently zoned as RS9, it actually would develop more traffic than what the industrial park would. And the final development plans, again, shall be reviewed by the planning board. So there's the next step that they have to go through with this two-phase request. And again, planning staff and planning board did recommend approval of this case. Just want to kind of show, this was a conceptual plan that we had shown the neighbors. This was what this kind of two-phase development was based off upon. So you can see how it was lotted out and then roughly what size buildings we thought could fit on the site. But we weren't willing to come in at this point with a special use site plan to lock that completely down because, again, we don't know what type of users would really come on the site, whether it be one building, two buildings, or three buildings. So this two-phase request gives us that flexibility to work within that. And then setting up the zoning conditions and the overall layout for the site now. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Luke, since he's the only speaker here? We got a couple of minutes. I did find my email, and maybe it's related, but it was from Keith and Carl Kapp. And I'll just ask this question to Chris, really. If there were a second, I mean, you come back for the actuals, come back again with this particular drawing after the two-phase part, is that, when that happens, is that an opportunity to consider anything else regarding, in fact, the change was more minor than, I mean, it was basically going, instead of having a 6-foot berm, the request was to go to 8 and to have a little larger setback right on, for the first lot on the road, with more of an idea. In fact, the comment was basically more like sort of a little more park, a little more upscale as the entrance to the park at that point, which I assume could be not only voluntary, but it also could be discussed at the second phase.
Well, under a two-phase request, it stops at the planning board. So, I mean, it certainly could be discussed, but it's handled as a planning board review item of the final development plan approval. So the planning board ends up being the final arbiter in deciding whether or not the site plan meets UDO requirements, and that's what they're looking at, are the UDO requirements. Again, ultimately, that will be up to the petitioner as far as whether they would be willing to accept those conditions. I mean, you know, I will defer to Luke as far as giving particulars, but, you know, for when you're fighting grade in some instances, and, you know, every time you go up a foot or two, you end up with the tail slope of your berm eating up a substantial portion of the developable property. So with that, I'll just defer to Mr. Dickey.
Well, and obviously, that conversation would be taking place with you all.
Yes, that's correct. And at this moment, you know, with the agreement, the condition as a 4-foot berm is what we like to keep that as. As Mr. Murphy had mentioned, when you look at a 4-foot berm, we're looking at a 3-to-1 slope to be able to maintain that. So that's 12 feet for one side. And we got the crown on top to put the plantings on, which is, you know, 2 to 5 feet. And then you got to go another 12 feet down for the other side of the berm. And then when you do that, we have to look at the drainage that's going to be on each side of the berm as well. So then that starts spreading out even further. So the higher you make that berm, and depending on what topography is doing, it could get much wider and wider. And then at this point, we're not willing to agree to an additional berming at this point where we are in this request. And so
It was helpful. Any other questions? We're getting ready to go for those, the second part. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? And if so, just please come forward and introduce yourself and tell us your address. And we got 15 minutes, and if are there a lot of folks that want to speak? I want to get an idea. Have several, 2 or 3. I think we're fine then. We're good. Just tell us who you are, your name and address, and we got a 15-minute span available.
Okay. Good afternoon, board members. I'm Caroline Kapp Fleischer, and my family and I are against the rezoning of the property that is located on the east side of Shore Road, south of US 52, being from a RS9 to an LIS. I'm currently a property owner of 30 acres within 500 feet of the rezoning, and my mother's home and property are within 500 feet of the rezoning as well. My mother could not attend for health reasons, and my brother lives on the property in a historical house that was built in 1897 and is working on the farm today and could not come to this meeting. In the pictures that you saw, that road that's going down, that is a road that my father and my brother constructed to get to our family farm because of a previous lawsuit with Artis Cap, who owned the house and part of that land before Jerry Stoltz purchased that. And they built that road that goes directly to our family farm. So our family is against the rezoning because it would be taken from being agriculture and residential to industrial. And comparing what they want to remove it from, they want to remove it from an RS 910 LIS. There are certain things that they had in common, and these things that they have in common would have been safer for our family, like a police station or recreational center, or even a school or a utility center. But now the list of different things that could be put there that are industrial are just not as safe. And as you may hear later, we are, the village of Tobaccoville is also wanting there to be some kind of safe buffer zone that this new rezoning would create. And the things that were already in, like what it's zoned as, seem to be safer for our family than what is being requested. So because these are the things that are already on there that we feel are safe, they're similar on the one that's being requested, but we assume the petitioner does not want to have any of these. But these would make better buffers, so that leaves less desirable things to be a buffer. And according to the Oxford Dictionary, a buffer is a person or a thing that prevents incompatible or antagonistic people or things from coming into contact with or harming each other. And we want something that will act as a buffer that prevents any kind of danger or safety issues for our family, especially my elderly mother that is living alone. So the list of things that can be built on this property are very long, and without more specifics about what it could be, we cannot be certain of what our opinion would be, because the buildings themselves, they have just these outlines, and we have no idea what they actually would contain. And so this affects not just our family farm, so the land that I have that's, across the street from that on Shore Road, and then the family farm where my brother and my mother live, but it also affects the residents that live there currently. So John Cooper, he bought 2240 Shore Road in May of 2020 for $385,000, and thought that this home would be his retirement residence. But he listed his house on Wednesday, February 7th, the day before the city planning board meeting, for $625,000. So versus him staying there, he had done a lot of work on that house. Now he's moving. But why is he moving? Would you want to live near a Love's truck stop and now potentially not having any idea what's going to be across the street from his house? So what I see, or our family sees, is that right now with having the Love's truck stop being built there, it seems there's more of concern for money than there is for the welfare of the people that are in that area and the residents. So in addition to potential safety issues that we see with the Love's truck stop that is already being built, there are air and water and light pollution issues, and our county is taking away places of more common peace and creating more noise and light and air pollution for its residents. Learning from history is always important, so we don't want to repeat the same mistakes that other cities have made. And this is not necessarily comparable to Los Angeles, but in Los Angeles in 1994, after an earthquake-induced power outages, calls came into emergency centers about a giant silvery cloud. Sadly, these residents did not know that what the Milky Way galaxy looked like in the night sky because of all the light pollution. And
Can I
it's-
interrupt you for 1 second? We've got about 9 minutes left, and I know there are a couple of other speakers, so I just want to make sure because we will stop at the 15-minute mark, and I want to make sure at least they have a chance to speak.
Okay. I will move on. So is that what we want for our county? Also, the bridge on 52, the architect during our meeting in Royal Hall on January 30th said that he could not predict the amount of traffic that would bring into this new industrial zone. And so I wondered how often the bridge can be checked for stability, and the DOT site says every 2 years. So do we know the weight capacity of the bridge? I don't know. These things could be considered even more now that the property would be rezoned with the heavier traffic. Will the road need to be widened? And so that's another concern for taking more farmland. So with that, you have this historical property. So in an evaluation for the Northern Beltway in 1991, the Columbus Cap House was evaluated for eligibility for the National Registry. That is the house that they are planning to take down. So this house is an example. It says in this evaluation that the house is an excellent example of a late 19th century brick-knobbed Victorian house. So this report, the same report, was republished in 2003 with a statement that says, no changes to the property or site have occurred since 1991, but it was still eligible to be on the historical registry. This particular house was built in 1890 or 1891 by Columbus Cap, which is Darius Stoltz's great-great-grandfather. I'm not sure how many greats, but it's a few greats. And on the land of his father, which was William Washington Cap, who was my great-great-great-grandfather.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Why don't we stop here and let's let the other people speak, and if there's any time remaining, you can return. Unless you can summarize in 10 seconds.
Oh, I was almost finished. Can I finish?
Thank you.
Thank you. Columbus Cap's grandfather, Heinrich Cap, left Salem and acquired property in the area in 1792. So the land that our property would be considered a century farm. We need to preserve. We need historical preservation instead of destruction. In the words of John Muir, the father of the national parks, and directly involved with establishing Yosemite and Mount Rainier and the Grand Canyon, everyone needs beauty as well as bread. Places to play and pray in where nature may heal and give strength to body and soul. We are losing so much of our farmland and heritage. There will be no nature or history left, but we will be surrounded by noise and lights. Even looking at the Niagara Falls, it was once used for industry until we realized that we were destroying nature's beauty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caroline, will you please state your address for the record, please?
My personal address
Yes,
is
ma'am.
788 Horncastle Road.
Others wishing to speak in opposition.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, honorable commissioners. My name is Steve Lineback. I live at 9275 Moore Road in Tobaccoville. Been there since the 70s. The reason I asked Chris to show this is that this road that you're looking at, the Cap Farm Road, is the private road that was built by Caroline's father. This is not the site of the road they're going to put in. The site they are proposing is about 80 feet west on the other side of that line of trees. just wanted to clarify that so that you knew that the access that they are proposing is not a roadway, a private roadway built by an adjoiner. Thank you for that. I'm under no illusions that this will be changing the outcome of today's hearing. I've attended many meetings in the past when the die is cast and understand that most discussion is generally moot. But I did want to express a few observations outside of the technical ones that I've presented to the Planning Board and the Village Council. And I'm concerned about the density, traffic, and the increase in impervious areas that everybody thinks engineers can fix. However, I doubt it, as I've seen Beaver Dam Creek over Shore Road, Muddy Creek and Mill Creek over Mitzvah Church, and all the way to Shadowlawn Drive and Robin Hood Roads due to unresolved runoff issues over the years. In fact, I've ridden sometime back, by the way, school buses that had to turn around and take alternate routes because of impassable roads. I expect the residents of Shore Road and Mitzvah Church area will get to experience this multiple more times in the future, as there's some things engineers just can't do and can't control. I would like to take the side of the residents and the visitors to this area that will be affected by this development and rezoning. Without a site plan and without the addresses and actual impact of homes, roads, and neighborhoods and character of the places they come to live with their domestic lives in with their families and friends. I may have messed that up, sorry. Mr. Stoltz does not live in the area and will not be impacted except for a bank statement every month or so. He doesn't give a rat's patootie how much the locals will be negatively impacted, his primary objective being to extract whatever material gain he can squeeze from the family land that he has a minimum amount of sweat equity in. First, the objection to Highway 52 bisecting it, which took some of the Stoltz land. After protest with the DOT, he was able to renegotiate a more lucrative settlement. Then the clear cutting of the timber that netted a pretty penny as well. Then the Loves rezoning with its ugly scar, and now he wants the rest of the dominoes to fall. Rezoning that with a rezoning that is not really of no benefit of his. I do not think the county will benefit to the extent that necessary future improvements to the infrastructure won't help offset the monetary short-term gain in the public coffers. For sure, none of the locals will benefit except possibly thinking that this golden egg goose will raise the values of their properties so they can move some other place far away from this debacle. In spite of their desires to stay and be comfortable in a community that they helped build and love in its character and non-urban sanctuary, I think the county needs areas like this that offers refuge from the hustle bustle of downtown neon and streetlight pollution. I ask that you table this for the present and wait for a site plan that is truly to be built. The site plan that was presented, as I understand it, is conceptual only and is not being held to any planning board requirements. Please at least consider the residents who also help with the tax base and prefer to stay in their neighborhoods that they help build and sculpture. Thank you.
We have 1 minute left. Is there anyone else that wants to speak, just very briefly? All righty. I declare the public hearing closed. Any questions, discussion, or do we have a motion?
Question. Chris, explain how now they're going to have, I don't remember how many lanes they're going to have associated with the Loves, but with other possibility of more traffic coming, and not knowing, but so far in the future, what is the process that would allow for additional right-of-way? It just needs to be something to be thought of, because if you if you don't think about additional right-of-way for future, then if more lanes are needed, then that can be a problem. There's probably several that exist around the county. One over on the east side and area I'm at, but not right at it. It's at Walkertown, 66 and 158, and they are widening 158's two-lane road, and then the process working on it to widen it from the within the city limits on right past Blues Creek Road, about 7 miles. But in that whole process, 66 is going to get improvements there at that intersection, some on the north and south. On the southern side, where the two shopping centers exist, there was not enough right-of-way left to, or barely, I'll say that, barely enough. And so as they doing this 158 widening, these a short distance of widening is going to occur on 66. Well, where the two shopping centers are, they are so close that they're barely just going to get the extra lanes, and they'll actually be needing to use the property that I guess it would be street yards or but nevertheless, they're going to have to go onto the property that already exists. So main point is for future that is not known now, but that traffic will increase about additional lanes. Is that something that as the state approves driveway permits, do they take that into account?
Commissioner Linville, they would, keep in mind as for this request on the east side of Shore Road, there was a traffic impact analysis that was required as part of the submittal, and that was reviewed by the local MPO or Winston-Salem DOT, and it was also sent and seen by NCDOT, and as part of their comments back, they acknowledged that the traffic impact analysis requires some a decel lane and a leftover turn lane onto the future road going into the industrial park. But that isn't the issuance of a permit. I mean, that becomes a requirement through this zoning action that the traffic impact analysis says that that's there. Before they can actually begin construction, they will also have to go through the driveway permit process. And at that point, NCDOT could evaluate it and make other improvements. Given where this is, I'm not sure if this road is proposed to be public, but if it is, that road in and of itself would be turned over to the state, and the state also would issue individual driveway permits whenever the final development plans go through the approval process and they go through the construction. Similarly, if the commissioners decide to approve the rezoning that you'll hear next on the west side of Shore Road there at Griffin, it's a limited use request with no site plan, so obviously they will have to be going through the approval process to get their plans approved, driveway permits, et cetera. At that time, if additional improvements, including right-of-way, is needed, they would make that a condition of approval related to the issuance of the driveway permit before they could begin construction. I will call up the fact that if you look in the staff report for Shore Road, the capacity of Shore Road is almost 14,000 trips a day, and the last traffic counts that we have, and I'm not sure when those traffic counts were done, but they've been done within the last 3 or 4 years, was 500 trips a day. So again, there's a lot of capacity out there. Obviously, in this case, if we're talking about industrial traffic, trucks, much different than just passenger vehicles, but again, all those things will be evaluated whenever they go through to get the driveway permit from NCDOT.
Thank
Other questions? All righty. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve zoning map amendment F-1638 and statement of consistency with comprehensive plan. I move that the zoning map amendment F-1638, including site plan and special use district permit, be approved on the basis of the following. The proposed special use zoning map amendment as petitioned by Jerry Stoltz and ITAC 484 LLC to rezone a 126.31 acre piece of property from RS9 to LIS, 2 phases. Limited industrial special use, building contractors, general, building contractors heavy, hospital or health center, industrial vocational training center, manufacturing A, manufacturing B, microbrewery or micro distillery, recreation services indoor, recreation facility, public recycling center, school, vocational or professional services B, special events center, testing and research lab, transmission tower, utility, warehousing, wholesale trade A, and wholesale trade B is consistent with the recommendation of the Legacy Comprehensive Plan and reasonable or in public interest because, number one, the subject property with single-family residential and agriculture uses is located on the east side of Shore Road, south of the Highway US 52, and is adjacent to US 52 and property zoned HB, HBS, AG, and RS9 with adjacent uses of single-family homes, undeveloped land, and a convenience store. Number two, the proposed LIS zoning is intended to accommodate limited manufacturing, wholesaling, warehousing, research and development, and related commercial and service activities, which in their normal operation have little or no adverse effect upon adjoining properties, and to provide location for industrial development in growth management areas 1, 2, 3, and 4 and metro activity centers. The proposed site plan features 7 lots in an industrial park, and the site has access to public water and sewer. And number 4, the subject property is located in Growth Management Area 3, is consistent with the Tobacco Area Plan Update, which recommends industrial development. The proposed use is consistent with adjacent zoning and uses, and the traffic impact analysts indicate that the proposed rezoning would generate less traffic than could be generated by currently allowed zoning uses.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Woodbury and Commissioner McDaniel. Any further discussion?
Just some general discussion. This is not in opposition to the motion. It's for the information of folks who are listening to or will be, looking at the rezoning discussions today. It is understandable if anybody's confused about which we're talking about. The agenda got switched around a little bit at the last minute, but there are 2 separate rezoning cases. This is the rezoning of RS9 property to limited industrial special use plan use. And Commissioner Whitnett read out the list of facilities, types of facilities that would be allowed here. This is the side of Shore Road that is up next against Highway 52 now, that is going to be the belt line that goes through there. So a lot of the questions of traffic noise, for good or ill, have probably that those issues have already flown. The other rezoning that's on the other side of Shore Road would be from agricultural to general business limited. no site plan, general businesses, which can include stuff that's more likely to be active at night. So a separate set of issues. The board here has to take those two rezoning requests separately, even, looking at the broad brush picture, knowing that it appears that the area is changing in character. So I make that note because, hearing the concerns that were expressed in the public hearing portion, some of those were clearly directed at this specific site that we're talking about now. Some of those, however, were also clearly directed at the zoning across the street to a separate set of proposed uses. So, and the Love stop sign, trucks, stop, the convenience store was an issue that, again, for good or ill, was voted on by the commission like a year and a half ago. So that's already been done. And again, I hope I'm reducing, observer confusion about what's on the table today. If I'm not, I apologize, but just trying to point out what's going on.
Thank you.
All righty. If you, all those in favor, please hold up your hand. Raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Third item on the agenda is a public hearing on the zoning petition of Jerry Stoltz and Patty Stoltz from AG to GBL. Exactly the discussion that Commissioner Bessie just had. Zoning docket F-1637. And again, Chris Murphy, our Planning and Development Services Director, gives us a very brief overview.
Brief. Yes, good afternoon again. Somehow got a slide ahead of myself. This request is F-1637, which is on the west or left side of Shore Road from where we just were. Again, a request of the Stoltzes to rezone 20.66 acres on both the north and south side of Griffin Road on the west side of Shore Road to special use limited rezoning from AG to general business limited use or no site plan. Subject property, again, located in GMA 3 there on the west side of the intersection at US 52 and Shore/Westinghouse. This is the subject property highlighted, or subject properties highlighted in yellow, again, on the north and south side of Griffin there at Shore. It is across the street from the Love's truck stop, and again, the northernmost property is adjacent to the off-ramp onto Shore Road heading 52 south. Subject property shown on the countywide aerial imagery. It's vacant property, looks to be in hay and partially wooded fields and woods. This is the subject property shown on the countywide, or excuse me, the Tobaccoville area plan update, and it is recommended for mixed-use development, but with a condition that it be comprehensively designed and a site plan be provided as part of that mixed-use development. This is looking north along Shore Road. The northern subject property is to the left. That would be the bridge over 52 in the background of that image. This is looking north from Griffin Road at the northern subject property to the zoning sign. This is looking, the left image is looking west and the right image is looking east along Griffin Road. This is looking west and east also along Griffin Road. This is looking southwest from the intersection of Shore and Griffin. The subject property is in the foreground. That would be that southernmost property. This is looking south from the intersection of Shore and Griffin. You see the Love's truck stop on the being under construction on the left. The subject property is to the right. And someone's hit the speed limit sign out there, probably as part of the construction. This is looking east and west along Griffin Road, again. This is looking south from Griffin Road into the southern subject property. I'm not going to run through these lists of uses, but these are the requested uses that made it through planning board. You do have some information that has been, I believe, given to you, and I will go into later, where they have agreed to remove, I believe, 4 different uses. Analyzing this, again, Legacy 2030 and the area plan do recommend commercial and office development for the properties adjacent to US 52, including the northern subject property. These plans do recommend a variety of residential types for the parcels west of Shore Road and south of Griffin Road, along with commercial uses. For the subject properties, the area plan recommends an interconnected, comprehensively planned and designed development that is complementary to area uses with a density of less than 8 units per acre for those residential uses that may be contemplated. The requested uses are generally consistent with the mixed-use recommendations of the Tobacco Area Plan Update and Legacy 2030. However, without a site-specific development plan, this specific request is, we feel, and the planning board felt, is inconsistent with the comprehensive design recommendations for the area. Therefore, this request is incompatible with the existing single-family neighborhood and the character of the area, as it could allow high-intensity commercial encroachment into that rural residential area, particularly along the westernmost boundary with those existing single-family neighborhood. As I mentioned earlier, there were 2 additional items that were offered. There is an additional condition that has been added under other requirements. A minimum 20-foot Type 3 buffer yard shall be required along all adjacent residentially zoned properties. The Type 3 buffer yard along pins, and I'm not going to read those, but they are reflected in the record and in the written consent conditions that have been signed, shall contain an earthen berm with a minimum height of 4 feet and a minimum crown width of 2 feet in accordance with the requirements of UDO Section 6.3.2B4. And again, they did agree to the elimination of the uses microbrewery or distillery, services B, residential building multifamily, and residential building townhouse. And again, we do have already signed written revised consent conditions that include the additional condition, and we have also provided the clerk's office with a revised ordinance and special use permit removing those 4 uses that they have indicated that they would remove. This was heard by the planning board at their February meeting. There were numerous speakers in opposition, and their concerns did center on the incompatibility of some uses, the impact to property values, the speculative or blank slate approach of the L request without a site plan. There were concerns about noise, traffic, and some particular concerns about the multifamily uses. Following the public hearing and discussion, the planning board voted to recommend denial of the request by a 6-3 vote. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions for Chris? All right, thank you. This is a public hearing, and speakers will have up to 15 minutes in total to speak in favor of this request, up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition? Are there others that wish to speak in favor? I'll just sort of work with time. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon again. Luke Dickey with Stimmel Associates, 601 North Trade Street, Suite 200, Winston, North Carolina, 27101, representing the Stoltz family in regards to this zoning request. Again, this is, as Mr. Murphy had kind of clarified, this is for the commercial side of Shore Road, which is the western side. The rezoning request is from AG to General Business Limited. Just kind of wanted to start off on this one. Just mention again, this was part of the overall neighborhood meeting that we had and talked about this site and also the industrial site that you just heard. And so again, we just combined that all together. One of the comments I will mention that we heard loudly from that neighborhood meeting was that they did not want to see residential multifamily or townhouse uses on this site. And then we also heard that again in the at the planning board meeting subsequently from that. So at this point, we'll again confirm with Chris that we did come back and we did request the removal of those uses of residential multifamily, residential townhouses, services B, and the micro brewery and micro distillery. This Vacaville area plan, I just kind of want to overview this with you real quick, is again, the plan recommendation is for a mixture of commercial, office, and residential for the remainder of the Shore Road industrial area. What's shown here is that industrial area, which is kind of on the eastern side of Shore Road that we kind of talked about, and that was for the industrial site we just looked at. And then the remainder of that is supposed to be commercial and office development best suited for the area closest to the US 52 I-74 interchange, and it calls it out specifically as approximately 24 acres. Then residential development is best suited for the parcels on the southwest side of Shore Road, south of Griffin Road, which is called out as approximately 45 acres. What I want to kind of point out to you then is from that is what's highlighted for this property is that what's in yellow, so that represents roughly 20 acres. Then you can see the little 4-acre piece that's across on the eastern side of Shore Road, which is 4 acres. So commercial and office development is best suited for the area closest to US 52 interchange, approximately 24 acres in size total. So those are the 24 acres that are called out specifically in the area plan for commercial and office mixed use. With the residential is best, again, suited for parcels on the west side of Shore Road, south of Griffin Road, approximately 45 acres. That 45 acres there, as you can see, is below the 10-acre site. So that has been really specifically designated for the residential uses. In working with planning staff and also working with the neighbors and what we heard, coming in with the GB zoning district, we have eliminated there's a total of 97 uses that are permitted within that zoning district, which is a lot for general business, and we have reduced that total to a number of 33 total uses, focusing more on the commercial side and trying to eliminate the ones that would be more not compatible with the single-family residential to the rear. A lot of those included also removal of all the motor vehicle type uses, repair, maintenance, storage yards, automobile dealerships with outdoor storage and things like that. So I think you'll probably read the list, whatever the recommendation is in the future here, but most of them are focused again on banking, financial services, potential for a car wash, convenience store, food or drug store, funeral home, furniture and housing, furnishing stores, hotel, motel, and then we're looking at recreation restaurants with drive-through, restaurant without drive-through, retail stores, and services A. Those are kind of like your nail salons and your smaller things that cater to more of the neighborhoods from that standpoint. And then there's some adult daycare or child daycare centers included in that list as well. So we really tried to cull this list in terms of uses that we feel that would not be compatible with neighbors. And that is kind of the beauty of an L rezoning request. When you don't know specifically what you want to do on a site, it allows you to add conditions, allows you to pare down the uses and try to make things a little bit more compatible from that standpoint. In the conditions that we have agreed to an additional setback of 100 feet instead of the 40 feet typical required. This is exhibited here in the red area, so that's adjacent to any of the residential family or single family zoned properties that are adjacent to the site, which includes AG. So you can see that basically encompasses the northern property boundary, the western property boundary, and then the southern property boundary of the sites. We have conditioned that for a buffer yard, we will be doing the minimum 20-foot type 3 buffer yard, and that is the densest buffer from the planting scenario that you can do. And then we also came back and we heard some concerns from the neighbors to the west of us about adding additional berming to help increase that height and additional buffering, and we have agreed to that. So that is represented there on the western side of the property and then along the shared property line with the church there on the northern parcel north of Griffin Road. We've also added another condition as part of this from an architectural standpoint. The proposed building shall use brick as the main exterior treatment on the first story, including the building's rear and sides that will be visible from public streets and from adjacent residentially zoned property. So what this does, it puts a higher quality design standards on whatever the uses that would go there, that they would have to have brick in those instances. So again, we're trying to up the quality level of the design as well, handling this through conditions when we know we don't have a site plan. We feel that this the highest and best use for this site. Again, this is something that complements and supports the proposed industrial park that's across the street, and it's often interchanged with the future of I-74. So it is going to be a little bit more kind of traffic-related and car-oriented from that standpoint. Again, traffic impacts at this point have not been evaluated for this site because we don't have a site plan, but when we work with NCDOT as uses kind of come in, then those would be looked at from the driveway permits and whether any more road improvements would be required as part of this. And most likely, given a commercial and the traffic that we generated from it, whether we add 2 restaurants with drive-through or something like that, those will start to trigger additional improvements on Shore Road because of what we've already looked at, what's been accounted for the Love's travel stop, and what has been accounted now for this industrial development will kick us in looking really at the improvements that need to be made, particularly at the interchange location on the off-ramps. We've been in discussions with NCDOT and have been talking about what potentials that could be, but then they'll evaluate that when we bring in specific uses for that. But most likely there will be improvements that need to be done in the future, and we recognize that for the bridge area. Again, the area plan specifically identifies these 2 parcels for a mixed-use commercial and office development. The area plan calls for residential on the 45-acre tracts to the south. I know in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, there's a concern about having residential, but this, again, has no impact to that future residential development on that 45 acres that's identified in the area plan. It believes in an increased valuation for a tax valuation for Forsyth County and the village of Tobacconville. And then, again, as I mentioned, that commercial development that got cut off here, but it was, again, talking about that traffic impact that would be looked at, and most likely that could support, again, the improvements that would need to be done to Shore Road and potentially at the interchanges. Kind of reason we feel for the approval for this request is the Tobacco area plan does, again, call for the commercial and office uses on this subject property. The site is located adjacent to an interchange and will serve and complement a future industrial park. The requested GBL zoning provides the flexibility for the development while providing protections and conditions that we've added to the adjacent property owners, and as well as the limited permitted uses. And again, I'll mention those conditions were the increased setbacks, the landscape buffers, and the architectural building materials. And then the proposed commercial development shall increase the tax base, again, for Forsyth County and for the village of Tobacconville. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I assume you've discussed this with the village of Tobacconville, these changes?
Mayor Marion had called me when we had sent an email out to one of the council members on the board to let them know about the changes that we had made to removal of the uses and addition of the berming for the buffer condition on the site, and that had been shared with them.
Any other questions?
One question. I understand that in discussions with the neighbors that you dropped all the potential uses that they were specifically objecting to, except for one, and that would be the hotel motel. What's your reasoning in not dropping that one?
Yeah, we feel that a hotel motel type use is viable at this location, given that we are on an interchange and we got those commercial uses, as well as when that industrial park does become fully developed out, that also provides another location, specifically when businesses bring in clientele or they bring in people that want to, for meetings and stuff like that. It provides a place and location nearby that they can meet. So we feel that that could meet a future need in the location for providing that ability to have a hotel in that location. Not necessarily, we're not looking at it as something that would be a low budget kind of hotel. It would be more that business clientele kind of based hotel would what we envision to be there.
Any other questions? All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
So anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? And do we have a number of those? I want to sort of get my time straight here. Got about 4 or 5. I'm going to go. I'm going to actually do about 3 minutes. I think that'll give ample time for everyone. So 1 moment, and I'll be with you. All right, just tell us your name and address, and I'll start our timer.
My name is Rachel Starling, 1690 Griffin Road, Rural Hall, North Carolina, 27045. Those that I am speaking on behalf of, would you please stand? Thank you. Ultimately, we're opposed to the rezoning of the land to GBL. There is no site plan, and the current proposal does not meet the Legacy 2030 plan usage. Without a site plan, we have no idea of what to expect with the broad usage outline for rezoning to GBL. If the request is approved as requested, the citizens would not have any protection from the high-intensity uses that the landowners are wanting, specifically a hotel, which is not suitable to be placed near large lot, single-family resident homes. My parents' house is only 44 feet from the proposed southern rezoning site. A neighbor's house is 225 feet, and our house is 235 feet. On the northern property, there is Faith United Methodist Church and a neighbor's house, which is 120 feet from proposed rezoning site. We live in a rural family-oriented area, so we do not need high-intensity businesses. Standing in my kitchen, I can see the Love's truck stop. With the lay of the land, very tall and dense protection is needed to protect the residents from traffic, noise, light pollution, and unsightly buildings in the horizon. The small berms will not make a difference. This would be across properties on both sides of the road for cosmetic and erosion purposes. There will also need to be very tall and dense protection along the southern side of the southern property to create a barrier for the residents and landowners. Depending on the layout of the structures, our homes will likely be on the back side of the high-intensity business where dumpsters, waste disposal, and other trash will be kept, which in turn will be blown onto our property. We are concerned about stormwater and water runoff onto our properties. My parents, who are here with me today, live directly west of the southern property. The land was recently cleared with no fence barrier in place, which caused the water and mud to increase. With more development on the land, the changes in water flow and amounts will further erode our land. Not all runoff will make it into the catch basins. Some will come out the drive openings. This will all run across my parents' land and my land. All this runoff, the water from catch basins, debris, and trash will flow to Muddy Creek, which ends up in Yadkin River. Residents in the area have already put their houses up for sale because of the proposed rezonings and the Love's truck stop that was approved. This rezoning is diminishing the value of all residential properties in the area. The petitioners do not live anywhere near the properties that are being petitioned to be rezoned, so they are not concerned about what happens to our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Others that would like to speak in opposition? Just give us your name and address, and I'll start the timer for 3 minutes.
My name is Dan Porter. I live at 2063 Covington Road, King, North Carolina. I also am the village administrator for the village of Tobacconville and have been for the last 22 to 23 years. I
Would
appreciate
you pull the
oppor-
mic closer,
I'm sorry.
please?
I appreciate
Pull
the
the mic,
Just pull it. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that better?
That's better.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today. And I want to recognize 2 council members I have with me today. Lori Short, is my mayor pro tem, and council member Boyce Shore, longtime council members. I'm speaking on behalf of the board because I do have some folks who are not here today due to the timing of the request. I'd just like to do a brief review. Our planner so eloquently described the situation for this zoning request. It's taken several turns. It started out as a request to rezone the properties to HBL. And when we looked at that, the council delivered an official response to the planning board. When we delivered that response, we issued it on January the 12th, and the council stated that they were clearly in opposition to this zoning request as they felt it was too intense and not in harmony with the village's land use plan. And they asked the petitioner to withdraw the request and rezone it to NB, which would be in more harmony with our land use plan. It changed again prior to the planning board meeting to GBL. And because of the timing of the change, the informal meeting was held at Village Hall to discuss this request, and that meeting was well attended by approximately 50 residents of Tobacconville. That took place on February the 7th. Both our mayor and mayor pro tem were present for this meeting. They indicated at that time, the residents did, that they felt that they would still like for the use to be denied because due to the intensity in the site plan, but some uses were particularly bad. I think those bad uses were multifamily housing, townhomes, hotel, motel, microbrewery, distillery, services B, and drive-through restaurant. At the planning board meeting, we had almost full council representation there. And the council did indicate the opposition to F-1637 based on it still being too intense for the area, particularly no site plan, and the potential for the uses to be not compatible with the adjacent properties. The planning board voted to deny that petition, and we have not had any contact with the petitioners until March 18th of this week. On March 18th, 3 days prior to this meeting, we and I became aware of an email which was sent to one of our council members via Luke Stemmel, who represents the petitioners, stating they were willing to remove uses from the zoning request, which the planners stated. I think the uses being microbrewery, distillery, services B, multifamily residential. Further conditions were clearly stated. But let me make it perfectly clear. Our council as a body has not had time to review those removal of those uses. So I can't provide an official board position, whether that's acceptable to them or not acceptable. All I can do is thank the petitioner for offering to remove some of those uses, but the board does not have a position on that. And as such, the email was also somewhat confusing. It did make it appear that the petitioner was working through an individual that was representing a neighborhood group. To our knowledge, there have been no meetings with a neighborhood group via these particular changes. We have not organized one. So the timing of the email and the information, we were not allowed the opportunity to meet or discuss this. No official position is made regarding our changes. My position here is just to communicate what I know, and that the official response to this rezoning request has not changed from our recommendation from the planning board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have, I'm keeping two timers with the time. We're actually down to about 7 minutes, actually a little less. I'll go 7 minutes, and others to speak. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioner, Chairman Martin, and Commissioners. My name is Lori Shore. I'm Mayor Pro Tem in the Village of Tobaccoville. I'm here not only as Mayor Pro Tem for the village, but also as a lifelong resident in Tobaccoville. Earlier this week, I sent each of you an email stating my concerns, so I will not go through all of those again. But I do just want to mention again that this has no site plan. It does not line up with the legacy plan, nor does it line up with our land use plan in the village. Many questions arise concerning these properties of F-1637. Why would the petitioner submit one request with a site plan and another one, 1637, without a site plan? Why has the zoning request changed several times? Why is this being pushed through so quickly? The village was only made aware of an email this week that was sent out by Luke with Stemmel Associates to only one person on our council. It was not sent to our administrator. It was not sent to anyone on our staff. It was not sent to our mayor, to myself, nor any other council member other than one. This email also insinuated that one person in the community was speaking on behalf of all the other residents, which is not the case. We clearly stated that we do not want a hotel or a motel, along with the other four descriptions that they have graciously removed. But a motel and a hotel is not an option on that property. I know Stemmel had made the statement that it would be a high-end hotel, but I assure you, if you could imagine a truck stop across the street from your home and then a hotel being built beside of your home, that will not remain a high-end hotel for very long, I can assure you. I sent you all about a year and a half ago all the crime statistics for all of the other local Love's truck stops. So you can imagine what our community would become in a short period of time if a hotel or a motel was allowed. So at no time did our community agree to accept a hotel or a motel. So I ask that you do not rezone F-1637. I ask that you give us the time that we would need to meet as a community to discuss this property. And, just want you to know that as an elected official, I do this because I care. I care about our community. I care about our residents. I care about what happens to their homes and their properties. So I humbly ask from one elected official to another that each of you care about these residents, care about these people who have lived there their whole lives, who've raised their children there, who have farms there. I just ask that you care and that you deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker. Got time to make it.
Hello, my name is Brent Coles. I live at 8275 Whippoorwill Lane in Rural Hall, North Carolina. Say that on the phone a bunch of times. Whippoorwill Lane in Rural Hall, North Carolina. I had a whole speech written down here, second by second in 15-second increments, and I soon realized that wasn't going to work. So my whole problem with how you guys are developing this is it's very small time. It's very not thinking big picture whatsoever. So your first move in the grand scheme of things is to put a truck stop there. Okay, that's fine. It's done. Let's move on. So the light industrial zoning, okay, that makes sense. That's consistent. But now you have a petition. I mean, Commissioner Wisenhunt, when you were reading that list, holy cow, you want a childcare, hotel, motel. Seriously, you're going to put a childcare center across from a 20-acre truck stop? You're going to put a hotel or a motel across from a 20-acre truck stop? Like you don't know what that's going to be 10 to 15 years from now? The other problem is the traffic, but it's not the traffic in regards to what you think. I don't think you guys have actually ever driven these roads. So get on that entrance or exit.
Driven it many
Go to
times.
52. Now you got 74 that's on a left lane and a right lane and a 52 that's straight south. So you got a truck stop there. You got 2 million trips a week on a slow moving lane a mile before the expressway splits 3 different ways. Oh, but we studied it and it makes sense. This whole thing is it's supposed to be comprehensive, and you're doing it one at a time. And you're doing it one at a time in a shotgun approach, such that it doesn't make sense. So when you drive through an area, say Charlotte or Raleigh or anywhere, and you're like, gosh, why is that there? It's there because they made the decisions you're making right now in piecemeal form. It's not done coherently or intelligently. It's done completely shotgun approach with a list of 14 different things with no consideration how those things interact with each other. The problem is not that you're developing, it's how you're developing. This piece of property is gold. Everybody understands it's going to be developed. It's 10 miles north of one of the 100 largest cities in the United States. It's gonna be developed, but you have to do it intelligently. And the way you're doing it right now, you're taking the first buyer every time, and it's gonna be a problem. That's all I got.
Thank you. Have 40 seconds left. Somebody want to say yay or nay in 40 seconds? Thank you. I'll declare that
She can't do 40 seconds.
I don't think you can do 30 seconds. Thank you. I'm going to have to close. I'm going to have to close the hearing. No, we're done. Seriously, we are now down to 17 seconds. So I think we're over. I'll declare the hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we delay this until April 4th. Our next meeting gives us time to go over some of the changed conditions and uses.
All right. Was that a second? I got my own interruption. Thank you. A second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand, please. Motion carries unanimously. We will continue this again on April 4th. Thank you. All righty. Let me see, we do have a couple other things before we get to you, like minutes, a few other things here.
Move approval.
Next item on the agenda, minutes. We have a motion by Vice Chair Wisenhunt to approve the minutes. I'll second those. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your right hand, or a hand. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any calls or cards for the public session?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any cards or callers.
All righty. Mr. County Manager, we are now ready to continue the remainder of the agenda. Here we go.
So we've been at it an hour and a half. Do you want to take a break or you want to jump in?
5 minutes.
If you can really, okay, 5 minutes, quick.
my mic on? It is now. Okay. We do have some business items for consideration this afternoon. We have reviewed these in briefing sessions and have hopefully answered all your questions of them. So I'll do and dive in. Item 6 is an amendment to the fiscal year 2024 budget ordinance that appropriates $15,500 from Carolina Across 100 for the Our State, Our Wellbeing program. This will ensure our participation in a collaborative learning model focused on mental health and reducing suicide in North Carolina.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 7 is amendment to fiscal year 24 budget ordinance that appropriates fund balance for the purchase of 4 ambulances. This is essentially what we'll be using PAYGO money that we expect to have really to get our replacement plan for ambulances kind of back on track. And it does get it back, a 10-year plan back on track. And so we bring this to you today.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
All right. Agenda item 8 is an amendment to the fiscal year 24 budget. It appropriates Home and Community Care Block Grant, or HCCBG, funds to the Forsyth County Department of Social Services to continue administration of in-home services. As you remember, we actually contracted those services a couple of years ago, but this will provide an additional allocation of $60,444 for Level 1 and Level 3 home care management, basically to help seniors stay in their homes.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. We have a second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
All right, very good. Agenda item 9 is an amendment to the fiscal year 24 budget. It appropriates funds from the National Association of County and City Health Officials, now of $2,500, and this is infectious disease control training.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. I'll be happy to second that. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
All right. Agenda item 10 is a grant matter. It's a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the United States Environmental Protection Agency to apply for and accept, if awarded, an air monitoring and air quality sensor grant to the Forsyth County Office of Environmental Assistance and Protection. We'll be applying for $156,000 in grant funding. There is no match required, and we will purchase monitoring equipment with it.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Agenda item 11 is a resolution approving execution of an agreement with Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. to create a co-located workforce training system with the American Rescue Plan Act funds. This will appropriate $800,000 that was originally part of the larger ARPA application that was approved, and it will provide workforce training services to include the WOW, the World of Work event. So,
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
all right, we have a number of contractual matters for the board to consider this afternoon. Item 12 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and Starpoint Incorporated. It's Department of Social Services matter. It kind of continues our scanning services work that we're doing to try to get totally paperless in an amount not to exceed $225,000.
We have a motion by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. I just have one kind of, it's more of a comment. Just looking at the beginning of this project, there was an estimate on the number of documents. Understand that totally, boxes, lots of different images, whatever else. But essentially, it's the count of documents was off by 4.5 million. And that there's got to be either something wasn't envisioned at the beginning of this that became envisioned by this time. And I'm just a little curious about that piece.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Yes, we actually had 3 different vendors come in at the initial RFP, and they all agreed it was about 15 million. Couple things changed during the process. They estimated about 3,000 images per box when they boxed them. It ended up being about 3,500. So when they were looking at this many inches on our file cabinets would fit in a box, and this is how many images it would be, that was one issue. So for every box, we were up 500. The other part was, as we started going through this, and we started in March of 2022 with the first pickups, all these programs were continuing to still do work. You still had social workers going out in adult services, family and children's services, program integrity. So they were adding paper during these last 2 years until they become paperless. So we were doing two things, implementing Laserfish, which you all had signed off on the contract for that, and starting paperless. Family and Children's is in, adult is in now, so we're creating less paper now, but during those 2 years, paper kept getting added. Every time a new family came in, it was a new file record. All our guardians, we get them, usually when we become a guardian in adult services, when we start their guardian, we're their guardian for the rest of their lives. And some of these cases start, especially with the behavioral health and mental capacity cases, from when they're in their 20s until they're in their 50s. These are very, very large cases. So it was two things, Commissioner Martin. One was the miscalculation by all three vendors, and we took their expertise as far as, figuring out how much it was going to be, and we've continued to add to the paper over the last 2.5 years.
I hear you. I got it.
Okay.
Still 30% increase, but I got
It is.
it. I got it. Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 13, we've got to get back on track, is a resolution approving the purchase of computing endpoints for the Forsyth County Department of Social Services. This is part of our kind of routine replacement efforts. We did bid it out. Dell Technologies was the lowest bid. The recommended contract is not to exceed $343,865.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 14 is a resolution awarding and authorizing a contract for the purchase of one Class 3 type ambulance to NWEV LLC. We are using a cooperative purchasing agreement for the authority and the compliance around purchasing to do this. It is an amount not to exceed $268,607.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner Linville. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 15 is a resolution approving the license of APCO and Telecom software by Forsyth County 911 Communications. This is our dispatch software, and so this will continue those services for that contract period.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Got one question on this one. I had a couple last week, but was this a part of our sort of budget this year to be? Is this a part of our budget that this is just now the item, or is this an off-budget item?
No, this is a service that we have to provide, and it just requires that, your rules around what comes to you is because it's in that threshold, that dollar threshold.
But
This is not a new service. This is what.
I understand it's not a new service.
Yeah.
I just understand, was it anticipated in the part of the regular budget? It was anticipated. I got it. Okay. All righty. Let's see. Any other discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 16 is a resolution authorizing an amendment to the agreement with FMRT Group LLC for pre- and post-hire psychological and medical services. This is really a function of some staffing success that we've had. We're adding $55,000 to the current fiscal year to address that staffing improvements.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, agenda item 17 is a resolution authorizing an amendment to the agreement with Airmark Correctional Services LLC for law enforcement detention center on-site food services. This is really a function of having a higher ADM in the detention center, and so we need to bring that to you so we have contractual authority to pay the bills.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. I certainly hope that at least the discussion that Randy had last week about perhaps limiting some of the extra servings and also dealing with the issues with the trays, that still doesn't sit well, with me. But
We can't imagine.
what's that?
I said, we can't imagine it.
But in any case, any other discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. It's a really reluctant hand. Reluctant. No.
So, and we can, probably a briefing session discussion, but we do make estimates across all these contracts about how much we're going to use. Perhaps the board might want to say, if it's exceeded by 10 or 15% or whatever, it doesn't necessarily have to come back to you, but that's something we can talk about in a briefing session, because we do peg a number, go with the number.
I know
We do
they're-
that a year, we do that in May of the previous year, and so, this is not unusual, and it's really more of a policy matter.
I know, except we did not, the estimate was presented last week, and the average number of meals, we are not there yet. Our population has grown, but not the overall average for what was anticipated for the entire year.
Yeah, it's just an estimate that we're
So
gonna-
there's some other things going on besides dealing with that estimate.
Okay.
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 All right.
Yeah, we can get through that. All right, item 18 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and Elite Aluminum Corporation for the purchase of a Forts fold-out rigid tactical shelter for Forsyth County. We are anticipating using COVID-19 funds for this. It was a strategy around, we have some available COVID-19 funds. What one-time funds could we use that could give us some advanced capacity? And that's really where this came from. It is a sole source provider from Elite Aluminum Corporation at a not to exceed $205,600. And it is a transportable unit that we will be able to keep under cover. So it should not wear much and should be available for us when we need it.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Agenda item 19 is a resolution awarding and authorizing a contract for the purchase of bipolar ionization equipment for various county facilities. I think we did bid this at a good time. It is an ARPA project. We were fortunate to get some competitive bids. The lowest bidder was responsive bidder was Sustainable Management Partners LLC in an amount not to exceed $195,577.20.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Item 20 is a resolution authorizing execution of a second consolidated and restated lease agreement between Forsyth County and Signature Flight Support LLC for full-service fixed-based operations. It really does several things. It provides for relocation of the fuel farm that the FAA has told us we need to move, additional terminal improvements, provide some funding for those, and then lease of space by Signature in the terminal building. I did want to just kind of call out Gordon and an attorney in his office, Fred Johnson. They've worked with Mark on this, and it is a complicated lease agreement. They've done a great job with it. So.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Item 21 is also an airport matter. It's a resolution awarding a contract to Barr Construction Company Incorporated for 4001 North Liberty Street EDA grant project. Contract amount is $5,533,000. This will get this project underway. It replaces the waterproofing system, the topping slab for the east elevated parking lot, and then replacing the curtain wall, glazing assembly, and the wet sealing the tile for the rest of the glazing assembly. It's not the entire EDA project. We had anticipated we'll be needing to search for some additional money there, but this does get that project started.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? I would like to thank James Anderson. I did talk to him about a couple of questions. He was very helpful today. All in favor, please say aye. Oh, excuse me, raise your hand. I apologize. Motion carries unanimously.
We just have a couple of property matters. Item 22 is a resolution authorizing grant of a temporary construction easement and execution of related documents to permit the construction of an access ramp between Liberty Plaza Building and the Caladium. It really will provide some better access. Damon and I walked over there the other day, and if you kind of go along the side of the Caladium from the parking deck to the Liberty parking deck, it'll make for a nice transition there. So, and the project cost will be funded by the owner of Liberty Plaza.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, item 23 is a resolution declaring certain county-owned personal property surplus and authorizing its disposition by public electronic auction utilizing Liquidity Services Operation LLC. I think Kirby is a jokester because the auction will begin on April Fool's Day, April 1st, and it ends on tax day, April 15th. So I don't know if he did that on purpose, but anyway, yeah.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. Be happy to say, second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. All righty.
Appointments, I'll turn those over to Vice Chair Wisner.
Thank you. Our first appointment today is Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee. We have citizens wishing to serve, which is Ashlyn Hardgrave, Deanna Kearns, Georgetta Lester, Angela Nicholson, and Jamone Scott. I move that these folks can be appointed by acclamation and also continue the remaining appointments.
Good. Acclamation. Do you have to have a second on acclamation?
I don't.
Okay. Second by Commissioner Bessie. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Animal Services Advisory Board, I'm sorry to say we did not have any applications, so it will have to be continued to a future meeting. Commission on Ending Homelessness, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. Our citizens wishing to serve are Jacqueline Barkley, Caleb Dillingham, Rosalind Lash, Marion Rivera, and Isaac Romaria. We need to please vote for this and vote for 3.
You didn't do the second one. You haven't done the next one yet. Just looking ahead. You haven't done this one yet.
Mr. Chairman, Jacqueline Barkley and Ivis Romero received 5 votes. Rosalind Lash and Miriam Rivera received 4 votes. So we will need to do a vote between Rosalind Lash and Miriam Rivera.
Excuse me, between Rosalind Lash and Jacqueline Barkley.
Miriam Rivera.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I see it down here. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Actually, on acclamation, you don't have to do anything.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
When she says it, you can say go.
That's why I asked. I kind of thought that.
Mr. Chairman, Miriam Rivera received 4 votes.
Would you read the 3 that won the 3 selected?
Jacqueline Barkley, Ivis Romero, and Miriam Rivera.
And I'd like to make a motion that we accept those citizens.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. You don't need a discussion.
Community Appearance Commission, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. We have 2 citizens wishing to serve, Emerald Bowman and DeAnthony Lewis. We will need to vote for one of these 2 citizens.
Mr. Chairman, Emerald Bowman received 5 votes.
I need make a motion to approve Mr. Bowman.
I'll second. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Community Child Protection Team, Child Fatality Prevention Team, we did not have any applicants. I move that we continue to a future meeting. We don't have to vote on that.
All right.
Equalization and Review Board, there are 5 openings, and we have 6 citizens wishing to serve. We do have 5 incumbents, Daniel Cruitt, Richard Davis, Paul McGill, Mustafa Shabazz, and they're the incumbent. Citizens wishing to serve is Brittany Davis and DeAnthony Lewis. We can vote for 5.
Got some about it.
She reads off the results, that is the vote.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah, when she reads off the vote, when she reads off the names, we don't have to vote.
Mr. Chairman, Daniel Cruitt, Richard Davis, Paul McGill, Mustafa Shabazz, and Brittany Davis received the most votes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Forsyth County Agriculture Advisory Board, we have 2 incumbents wishing to serve, Neil Dagenhart and Lucas Weevil, and I move that they be appointed by acclamation.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Raise your hand.
Aye. Sorry. Hold your hand.
Forsyth County Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee, we have 2 incumbents and 1 citizen wishing to serve. Andrea Graham, Pasai, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce that name, Sawyer Lamberth, and the citizen wishing to serve is John Lee. These folks can be appointed by acclamation.
Done. Very good.
Okay, Forsyth County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, we have 1 citizen wishing to serve, and that is the Director of Social Services, Krista Smith, and this can be appointed by acclamation. Forsyth County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, we have 2 citizens wishing to serve, Stephen Seals and Jaleesa Truesdale, and we need to vote for one of these folks. Both are nonprofit representatives.
Let me make sure I'm picking up 2 pages here.
Mr. Chairman, Jalissa Truesdale received 5 votes.
Thank you.
Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority, we did not have any applications, and it will be continued to a future meeting. Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee for Forsyth County, we did not have any applications. It will be continued to a future meeting. Piedmont Triad Regional Workforce Development Board, we have one citizen wishing to serve. He is from the business community, Lewis Finley. I move that he be confirmed. Well, it can be appointed by acclamation, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Planning Board, City County, 2 appointments, 4-year terms. This can be approved by acclamation. We have 2 incumbents, Jack Stillman, county resident, and Brenda Smith, a county resident, approved by acclamation. Public Art Commission, citizens wishing to serve, Susan Brittain, Elizabeth Hutley, and Sandra Mitchell. We need to vote for one of these 3 applicants.
Mr. Chairman, Susan Britton and Elizabeth Hunley both received 3 votes. Another vote is required.
Sorry, hang on. Would you repeat the 2 again?
Susan Britton and Elizabeth Hundley.
My little notepad is gone.
We have got to get y'all's.
It's gone.
Tanya didn't have one either.
I've been using mine. I may have picked it up, take it.
Mr. Chairman, Susan Britton received 4 votes.
Okay, good.
All right. Ready for me? Okay. Just have to finish out, we have 2 tax administration matters. You probably can take 38 and 39 together. 38 is a resolution approving refunds by the tax assessor and collector in the amount of $4,684.92. You've got refunds by the tax assessor and collector from the North Carolina Vehicle Tax System in the amount of $20,652.16.
Is there a second? Motion by Commissioner Blyler,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
And last item reports, you've got a fuel surcharge franchise report from the solid waste franchises. Just took a look at it before it came in. It appears that the rate would drop from $15.42 to $15.16, reflecting the price in diesel fuel.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plowder, second by Commissioner Linville. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
And that is all there is for the regular agenda.
Well, we actually do have one other item on the agenda. And it's it's a real pleasant one, and I want to see if I can get my notes correct here. I think everyone in this room knows that we have been searching for a new county manager to replace our retiring Dudley Watts. And I'd like to begin by thanking the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners for their help in this search, along particularly with our attorney, Gordon Watkins, and also our clerk, Ashley Matthews, been very helpful. And because we're members of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, they offer as a free service, they actually provide a person to help county commissioners do their search. And we were very blessed to have a retired county manager, Amy Cannon, actually work with us. And we received 22 applicants from actually across several states, not just North Carolina. And our consultant actually did some initial collection and screening on paper. We met with her, narrowed that field down to 8. Then she actually did telephone screening interviews, came back and said, this is kind of what I learned, these are the things, and we asked a lot of questions. That was a pretty long session, and we narrowed it down to interview 3 finalists. And I can tell you that the 3 finalists were all extremely excellent. We had 3 really very capable, well-prepared, and all experienced. And I will say that one of these was our Deputy County Manager, Chantel Robinson. And she was extremely poised and passionate and prepared for the interview, very much so. And I've got, in a couple of minutes, I have a formal motion to make, but I would like to say just a couple of, I'm going to recommend that we hire Chantel in a moment. But before we have the official action, I actually wanted to just share a couple things about her. She has had an extensive career, actually in leadership positions. I'm not going to mention all, but I am going to say that when she was in high school, she was a manager of a McDonald's restaurant, just to put that in perspective, beginning early responsibility and leadership. And she actually, from her public service, her county experience, she had other leadership positions, but her county experience, she was the HR director in Onslow County, and we hired her from there. And she came here and actually worked 5 years as our HR director. And then in January 2020, our county manager said, I have a vacancy here for an assistant county manager for human services, coordination and work and oversight. And he said, I really think Chantel Robinson's one. She's a very capable, leader, a lot of things. And I was a little skeptical. She had a background in HR only. Well, not only, but her public service was in HR. And so actually, when it moved forward in January 2020, what happened in March of 2020? In March of 2020, we basically shut our place down for a while, and the whole world began to shut down. And we had certainly our pandemic offered many opportunities for leadership and many challenges, and particularly in the health department and particularly in the Department of Social Services, required extensive leadership. And our county manager saw fit by the end of that year, by December, to say, I think, Chantel has really demonstrated a lot of great, we need to make her a deputy county manager. The board could not have agreed more at that time. And actually back in 2020, she was actually named the deputy county manager. And at least in lots of leadership challenges, I think one of the big measures is how well you deal with uncertainty. And I can tell you that Chantel was able to deal with a lot of uncertainty and actually provided a lot of guidance, I think community-wide in our response to the pandemic. So this is an opportunity to thank her again for that. I now have actually a formal motion that I'd like to make. And I'd like to say that let me get to my notes here. So I made a couple markouts there. I'm very pleased to make a motion that Mrs. Chantel Robinson be employed as the new county manager for Forsyth County at an annual salary of $262,500. Is there a second?
And I would second.
Oh, it looks like everybody seconded it. Well, maybe we don't need to vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Congratulations, Chantel.
Thank you, Chairman Martin, Vice Chair Wizenhunt, Commissioner Linville, Commissioner McDaniel, Commissioner Woodbury, Commissioner Bessie, and Commissioner Plyler. I am truly humbled, honored, and grateful. I appreciate your trust and confidence in me. I know I'm coming behind a fantastic county manager in Dudley Watts and have big shoes to fill. I'm thankful for his leadership and support over the last 10 years. And I would not be here today if it were not for him and Deputy Manager Sanders Pratt, who hired me in 2014 and poured their words of wisdom and guidance in me along the way. This is an opportunity that I do not take for granted and do not take lightly. I will work tirelessly for you, the employees, and the residents of Forsyth County. Everything in county government that we do is because we have an amazing team. Our clerk to the board, Ashley Matthews, our attorney, Gordon Watkins, Deputy Manager Sanders Pratt, our department directors, and all of our county employees. I have so many more thank yous and acknowledgments, but I'm going to reserve those for our swearing-in ceremony that will occur in a few months, where my fabulous husband, George, will be with me, and my family and friends and many more staff. And so I really just want to thank you again for this opportunity. I look forward to leading, listening, and serving. Thank you so much.
I would like to invite all of our fellow commissioners if they'd like to make a comment or two.
Well, I certainly will. She made me cry. I'm very pleased. The first time that I really got to know Chantel was the first year that she presented when she was HR. She presented to our budget workshop. And I thought, and she did such a great presentation, and I thought, wow, she's really something. And so then every year after that, she would get up, and then she was moved up to the 5th floor, and she became over the Health and Human Services Board, which I serve on, and I've just seen her do so many things, and I think she's a superstar. I've had people say to me, what is it about that Chantel Robinson? Because I've had people from other counties in North Carolina come up to me, and even the the DHHS members, and they'd say, "What is it about that Chantel Robinson?" I said, "She's just a superstar, and you can't have her." But I really think, I'm going to say this, I think that Chantel is a female Dudley Watts, and I'm happy to have you.
Any other comments?
I was going to save my comments till later, but I just wanted to thank this board collectively for processing, listening, guiding this county, and trusting that we could trust Chantel with her brilliance and her beauty. I'm so very excited to have you, and welcome, and thank you again for your new position. And Dudley, I'm going to miss you. I wish I could put you in heels, but you actually did, so thank you. And I'll have more comments later. Thank you. And we also made history, so again, I thank this board for your openness and, again, listening to this community. Thank you.
Chairman, I'd like to say we've been blessed to have Dudley Watts, who's a really good county manager. And I think the wisdom of tonight is Chantel. I'm delighted that she is county manager's office. The kind of thing that is extremely important to the citizens of Forsyth County. I frankly think with Chantel, we've hit the jackpot. Congratulations, Chantel.
Other comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Little.
I won't say too much. It's not because she don't deserve a lot of accolades. One of the things that it appears to me she's got a good temperament for this job, and that'll go a long way. Current manager, he's got the best one I've ever seen. I've got something to measure, but I don't like to compare people. But the board members know that, other people. But even with a good temperament, I think whenever she needs to, if somebody's not paying attention, I think she can make them pay attention. That's something that needs to be done also. And so she will be able to show the knowledge that she has and how to do things. And I got confidence in her. I think the whole board does. I think she'll do good. And last but not least, she was trained by the best.
Other comments?
I would just like to say, of course, I am new as a county commissioner. I have not had the privilege as the other county commissioners with the time spent with Ms. Robinson, but the time that I have spent, I have admired her tenacity as a professional, as someone who would not capitulate to my often very robust ideas, always standing her ground as a professional that is looking out for the good of the institution versus trying to placate myself as a county commissioner. I have admired that about Chantel, and I admire her even more because she became the county commissioner off of hard work, dedication, intelligence, the capacity to care for others. And I, as a citizen, definitely look up to those kinds of characteristics, and I am grateful that those characteristics are in our new county commissioner, not county commissioner, but our new county manager. And I am here to, and I think all of the commissioners, here to support you to get this work done. So do not think that you have to be the new Wonder Woman or Superwoman of this county. Know that this is a collective work, and we are here to support your leadership and the staff that supports you too. And I would also like to thank Dudley for his commitment to this county and helping me to become ideally a better commissioner. Thank you.
At the age of 69, it is always fun to be able to point out that I'm the new kid on the block. Along with Commissioner Woodbury just came on, but in the little more than a year that I've had the opportunity to serve as a county commissioner, I've recognized the extraordinary level of skill and talent that we have in the county manager, the 3 team members of the county manager suite. And one of the things that Dudley Watts has shown himself especially capable of is identifying, selecting, and mentoring new talent, in the ranks of whom stand out Ms. Chantel Robinson. I was fortunate enough in my years on the Winston-Salem City Council, among my very first years on the council, to have the chance to select a new city manager who was at the time an assistant city manager. And I think that picking Lee Garrity was one of the best votes I ever made on the city council. I'm fortunate in my very first year as a county commissioner to have the chance to share in an equally significant choice. And I believe that the appointment of Chantel Robinson as the county manager will end up being one of the best votes of my career here. And I will note that we did not have a default choice in our search for a new county manager. We opened the applications, and we received the applications of well-talented and prepared individuals from across North Carolina and beyond. And we had a talent pool to choose from, and from among that talent pool, Ms. Robinson was simply the best on the preparation, on the temperament, on the talent, and I look forward to working with you for years to come.
Congratulations again, Chantel. And before this part adjourns, I promised Commissioner McDaniel that she'd explain her pink jacket that she told me was not her color.
Thank you, Chairman, and our colleagues for this point of privilege. As a top lady of distinction of the Winston-Salem chapter, I would like to welcome the Top Ladies of Distinction Incorporated on their 42nd Area 4 Leadership Conference. They're here this weekend. Under the leadership of the Winston-Salem chapter, I'd like to recognize our president. Her name is Lady Lavangela Howell. Lady Bobby Miller is our host chapter conference chair. Lady Dorothy Buchanan Wilson is the National Area 4 Conference Director. And Lady Eddie Lee Marsh is the Area National President and CEO. And we also have John Carey, our Area 4 Top Teens of America President, here as well. The Top Ladies of Distinction Incorporated is a service-oriented organization which is founded on September the 8th, 1964 by Major Odell Dean. This year's conference theme is Shine in Action. I will share that I enjoyed spending time in the community on yesterday with my mayor, Alan Joines, and Dr. Sir Walter Mack, who is the pastor at Union Baptist Church, where we collaborated with Denny's to feed over 1,000 constituents. Additionally, our mayor, I want to thank him, Councilmember Barbara Burke, and the City of Winston-Salem Parks and Recreation for dedicating the historical bench at the Carl Russell Recreation Center and acknowledging Lady Minnie Irving, one of our Winston-Salem founding members and constituents. Again, thank you. And I welcome over 800 ladies, lords, and community to Forsyth County. Thank you for allowing me to chair.
Thank you. I'll say we are adjourned, and we're going to take maybe 5 or 6 minutes and come back for the briefing. Good? Call to order our March 21, 2024 briefing. And this is the meeting coming up this is a briefing for the Thursday, April 4th, 2024 meeting. We don't have any discussion items today, and our county manager will actually kind of highlight the items for next week. And it looks like we got a couple public hearings, but maybe not. We'll go ahead and talk about it.
Very good. Yeah, we should be able to get through this fairly quickly. Two items with public hearings, we generally review it completely so that the public can get some idea what those are. The first one's a public hearing to consider the expenditure of county general funds for an economic development project and authorizing an agreement with the company. Kyle Haney will review.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As is our tradition, so we'll do the full PowerPoint presentation at the meeting when we have release the company's name. But this project is to incentivize a manufacturing company to locate a manufacturing facility here in Forsyth County. If they choose to locate here, they would invest $5,090,000 in building and machinery and equipment and hire 50 new full-time employees at an average wage of $65,294 a year. The incentive proposed is a 5-year, 50% incentive standard for the board. $69,746 is the total. That would be paid over 5 years. And as I always like to remind everyone, they will create the jobs, they will pay the taxes before they receive any sort of incentive funding. Happy to answer any questions now, but once again, we'll do a full presentation once we reveal the company's name.
Questions for Kyle?
Thank you, Kyle. More to come. The second item that requires a public hearing is a matter regarding tax-exempt bonds for healthcare facilities to be issued by the National Finance Authority for the benefit of Novant Health Incorporated. Gordon, do you want to introduce Charles Boyer, or maybe even give the board a little bit of background around? This is not a normal item that we run into.
Yeah, I know just enough to be very dangerous about this, but these are bonds, which Mr. Boyer will tell you more about, but basically your approval is required. However, the county really has very little to do with this. We won't be liable for anything. This particular issue involves a number of facilities, which he'll talk about, very important projects in Forsyth County. And I'll introduce Charles Boyer and have him come up and tell you all about it.
Hello, my name is Charles Boyer. Sorry to subject you all to tax law this late in the evening, but I'll be brief and high level about it. So the National Finance Authority is a conduit issuer. Novant Health will be issuing tax-exempt bonds through that issuer, and to do that, the federal tax code requires the areas where the projects are located to hold a TEFRA hearing for the citizens to come forward if they wish, and then an approval resolution, which I've previewed and shown Gordon, has to be passed by the board. It's section 147F of the code. The key thing here is that the county has no liability for the bonds. It's simply a procedural requirement of the federal tax code for public disclosure. Happy to answer any questions about it.
Any questions? Got it. Thank you
so much. Appreciate it.
There are other two special resolutions that the board will hear. A resolution recognizing April 2024 as Public Health Month, April 2024 is Child Abuse Prevention Month, April 2024 is National County Government Month, and then approving the Forsyth County America 250 NC Committee, which we just talked about a bit. Other items on the agenda, we do have a number of budget and finance items, a little bit more home and community care block grant, budget consideration. We actually pulled off this last agenda the item related to the fire apparatus that would come out of the overlay district. Started getting into some questions about that and where the money kind of flowed through, and so we pulled that out. We do have some funds that were generated from surplus proceeds that we need to push back into the motor vehicle and mobile equipment replacement sub-fund. Item 11 is a budget item. Actually, 11, 12, 13 are all addendum AA agreements or addendum agreements through public health for various things, and so those are pretty routine. Most of those always mean we've got some additional funds come in, so you'll hear about those. Grants, we're asking for authorization to submit a grant to Duke Energy to do some work up at Blues Lake. Jimmy Flythe had contacted us and said there was a little money available. you may actually hear that that gets approved, because I think that their decision-making authority is doing some stuff now. So I doubt Jimmy would have actually said something about it if he wasn't pretty sure we were going to get the grant. But that's out there. Parks is also interested in applying for some Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grants for some improvements at Blues Lake as well. If you remember, the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund is funded through part of the land conveyance fees, the fee that Register of Deeds collects. And so we've always, those are really local dollars that it's important to kind of keep those Parks and Recreation Trust Fund opportunities out there so you sort of get your money back. So we apply for those. There is a resolution authorizing submission and application to North Carolina Foundation for Soil and Water Conservation. They actually have for a long time, and Commissioner Linville may remember, they actually purchased a no-till drill that particularly small plot farmers can use to plant grass. And so you can go rent it or use it. And that has been pretty effective. A lot of folks use that, and actually it's a very good tool for preventing erosion. So they're actually trying to get some grant money to purchase another one of those, because it's been quite some years since they bought the first one. Contracts, you've got a contract for lease agreement with Humane Solutions Spay-Neuter Program for that surgical suite inside the animal shelter. That is a tremendous opportunity, and we're really excited to bring that to you. Item 18, we actually have pulled. It was the Laserfish Document Management Subscription Services. We're still working on that. Recognize we won't be ready for it next Thursday, so we'd push that off to the next cycle, and then refunds. So, and then the item earlier, I think one of the items earlier was pushed off to this meeting as well.
The zoning.
Yeah, well, the zoning.
There was a budget ordinance amendment about about apparatus.
Yeah, okay, so that was that one as well. Yeah, and then obviously the others on that. So anyway, that's it, and we'll be back next Thursday.
Let me just say one thing I just now thought of about the zoning matter, and Chris is gone, but what I would just offer as a suggestion to the petitioners that maybe they consider I don't know where they had one or not, I don't believe they did, a neighborhood meeting in the immediate. They want,
Yeah, they said they had 50-some people came.
Maybe to the original one. I actually ran in the restroom, ran into the the city administrator of Tobaccoville, and he said that there was discussion that another parent meeting had been held, another community meeting had been held, and he said there has not been. So there's not been one after the initial one. There's not been one that shows the changes that have been proposed.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said.
Suggestion.
That could be good.
All right, sorry.
We have closed session.
I don't think so.
I don't.
Had enough closed session today.
Please.
Had enough meetings for today.
I
Right, we're done.